Every day we face challenges. Some are small, like traffic on the way to work, and others cut deeper, loss, disappointment, or failure. Life never promises comfort, but it does promise us opportunities to grow. And the question isn't whether adversity will come. The question is, will we be strong enough to face it? Emotional strength and resilience aren't gifts we are born with. They are built brick by brick, habit by habit, moment by moment. And if you look closely, those who thrive in difficult seasons aren't stronger because they never fall apart. They are stronger because they've practiced habits that help them rise again. So, what are these habits? Let's explore them together. First, the habit of reflection. We often underestimate the power of a quiet moment with ourselves. Just 10 minutes a day to ask, what did I learn today? Where did I struggle? What did I handle well? Reflection is not about judgment, it's about awareness. The more aware we become, the better prepared we are for tomorrow. Think of reflection as sharpening the blade before facing the forest. Second, the habit of gratitude. Gratitude doesn't erase pain, but it reminds us that even in the darkest seasons, there is still light. When you wake up and list just 3 things you're thankful for, you shift your mind from scarcity to abundance. Gratitude makes us emotionally stronger because it helps us focus not on what we've lost, but on what we still have. Third, the habit of self-discipline. Emotional resilience isn't only about the heart. It's about the habits that shape our mind and body. Waking up early, exercising, eating clean, limiting distractions. These aren't small acts. They are commitments to self-respect. Discipline builds resilience because it teaches us that we can do difficult things even when we don't feel like it. Fourth, the habit of connection. We were never designed to endure life alone. Having people we trust, friends, mentors, family doesn't make us weak, it makes us stronger. Sharing our struggles, listening without judgment, and showing up for others creates a web of support that catches us when we fall. Emotional strength is not the absence of need, but the wisdom to know when to lean on others. Finally, the habit of perspective. Challenges often look overwhelming when we see them up close. But when we step back, we realize that the storm is not forever. By asking, will this matter a year from now, 5 years from now, we reduce the weight of the moment. Perspective builds resilience by reminding us that pain is temporary and growth is permanent. These habits don't transform us overnight, but practiced daily, they shape us into people who bend but do not break, who fall but rise stronger, who face storms but never lose hope. So the invitation is simple. Don't wait for life to test you before you build resilience. Start today. With reflection, gratitude, discipline, connection, and perspective, you won't just survive adversity, you will grow through it. And that growth will make you unshakable. 5 keynotes of the speech: reflection creates awareness and prepares us for future challenges. Gratitude shifts our mindset from scarcity to abundance, even in tough times. Self-discipline strengthens resilience by proving we can handle discomfort. Connection with others provides emotional support and shared strength. Perspective reminds us that pain is temporary, but growth is lasting. Reflection is often overlooked in our fast-paced world, where the pressure to keep moving, achieving, and producing leaves little room for stillness. Yet, reflection is the foundation of emotional strength and resilience because it creates awareness, and awareness is what prepares us for the challenges ahead. When you pause each day to look inward, you are not wasting time. You are investing in your ability to respond wisely rather than react impulsively. Reflection is like holding up a mirror to your thoughts, actions, and emotions, giving you the clarity to understand what worked, what didn't, and what you can improve. Without reflection, we move through life on autopilot, repeating the same mistakes, falling into the same traps, and feeling overwhelmed by the same obstacles. With reflection, however, we gain the insight to grow stronger with each experience. Think about the way we prepare for physical challenges. A runner doesn't just run endlessly without assessing performance. They review their pace, their breathing, their endurance, and the areas where they struggled. That review is what allows them to improve over time. Reflection does the same for our emotional and mental well-being. By pausing each day to ask ourselves important questions. What challenged me today? How did I respond? What did I learn? We sharpen our self-awareness. And self-awareness is the key to resilience because you cannot change what you do not understand. The challenges of life do not become easier, but through reflection, we become stronger because we prepare ourselves to face them with greater clarity and perspective. Daily reflection also helps us separate our emotions from our identity. Too often when we fail or feel discouraged, we believe that those feelings define who we are. We might say to ourselves, I am weak, or I am not capable, when in truth, those emotions are simply signals of our current state. Reflection gives us the space to step back and see those emotions as temporary visitors, not permanent labels. For example, when you reflect on a difficult conversation where you lost your temper, you begin to see not just the frustration you felt, but also the triggers behind it. You realize that your reaction came not from weakness, but from something deeper that needs attention, perhaps stress, fear, or a lack of preparation. That awareness allows you to handle similar situations with greater control in the future. Reflection also builds resilience by teaching us how to extract meaning from setbacks. Every failure carries within it the seed of growth, but only if we take the time to look for it. If you fail a test, lose an opportunity, or face rejection, reflection allows you to ask, what can I take from this? How will this make me stronger? Instead of being crushed by the weight of disappointment, you begin to see setbacks as stepping stones. You begin to believe that challenges are not the end of your story, but part of the process of becoming stronger. Resilience grows when we stop seeing adversity as an enemy and start seeing it as a teacher. And reflection is the habit that makes this possible. Moreover, reflection helps us celebrate progress. It's easy to notice what went wrong, but reflection encourages us to also recognize what went right. Maybe you stayed calm in a situation where you would normally lose your patience. Maybe you pushed yourself through a task you were tempted to avoid. Maybe you showed kindness to someone even though you were tired. These moments might seem small, but they are evidence of growth, and acknowledging them strengthens your confidence. Each time you reflect and notice these victories, however minor, you reinforce the belief that you are moving forward, and that belief becomes fuel for resilience. Reflection doesn't need hours of meditation or complicated rituals. It can be as simple as writing a few lines in a journal at the end of the day or sitting quietly with your thoughts for 10 minutes. The key is consistency. Like any habit, reflection strengthens with repetition. At first, it may feel uncomfortable or even pointless, but over time, the insights you gain will transform how you handle challenges. You will notice patterns in your behavior, understand your strengths, and learn where you need to grow. This knowledge will not eliminate struggle, but it will equip you with the resilience to face it with confidence. In essence, reflection is preparation for the unknown. Life will always bring uncertainty, and while we cannot predict every challenge, we can prepare ourselves to meet them with strength and clarity. Reflection is how we sharpen our emotional tools. It is how we learn, adapt, and grow. When practiced daily, it turns every experience, good or bad, into a stepping stone toward greater resilience. And with each step, we become more aware, more capable, and more prepared for whatever lies ahead. Gratitude is often described as a simple practice, yet its impact on emotional strength and resilience is profound. In times of difficulty, it can feel unnatural to look for things to be thankful for, but that is precisely when gratitude becomes most powerful. When life feels heavy, gratitude lightens the load by shifting our attention from what is broken to what is still whole, from what we have lost to what we still possess. This shift does not erase pain or struggle, but it reframes the way we experience them. Gratitude provides perspective, and perspective creates resilience. Those who practice gratitude daily are not immune to hardship, but they carry within them a mindset that refuses to let challenges define their entire reality. The human mind has a tendency to focus on problems more than blessings. Psychologists call this the negativity bias, an evolutionary trait that once helped us survive by making us hyper-aware of danger. But in modern life, this bias can work against us, pulling our energy toward worry, fear, and dissatisfaction. Gratitude interrupts that cycle. By deliberately directing our attention toward what is good, gratitude rewires the brain to notice abundance instead of scarcity. This mental shift allows us to approach challenges with greater calm and stability, because instead of being consumed by what is missing, we remind ourselves of what remains. Emotional strength grows when we choose to see light even when darkness is present. Consider the impact of starting each morning by naming just 3 things you are grateful for. They don't have to be grand achievements. Often the simplest acknowledgments are the most powerful. A warm cup of tea, a supportive friend, or even the fact that you woke up to see another day. These are small but meaningful reminders that life still offers reasons to hope. By focusing on these moments, you cultivate a foundation of positivity that steadies you through the day's challenges. Over time, this daily practice strengthens resilience because it builds the habit of finding good in every situation. No matter how difficult, gratitude becomes a lens through which you see life, and that lens makes obstacles less overwhelming. Gratitude also deepens our connections with others, which is a vital part of resilience. When we express appreciation to the people in our lives, we strengthen bonds of trust and support. A simple thank you to a colleague, a heartfelt acknowledgement of a friend's kindness, or a note of appreciation to a family member not only lifts their spirit, but also reinforces our own. Resilient people are rarely isolated. They are surrounded by relationships that sustain them in hard times. Gratitude nurtures those relationships, reminding us that we are not alone in facing life's difficulties. Knowing that we are supported by others makes us stronger, and expressing gratitude keeps those connections alive. Another important aspect of gratitude is its ability to transform how we see setbacks. When faced with disappointment or failure, it is easy to dwell on what went wrong. Gratitude invites us to ask, what can I still appreciate in this moment? Perhaps the failure taught a lesson. Perhaps the rejection opened space for a better opportunity. Perhaps the struggle revealed inner strength we didn't know we had. Gratitude helps us see that even within loss, there is something to gain. This perspective does not deny the pain of setbacks, but acknowledges that pain and progress can coexist. Resilience grows when we no longer see hardship as the end, but as a stage in the process of growth. Gratitude also nurtures patience, another key to emotional strength. Life rarely moves at the pace we want, and frustration often arises when we feel things are not happening fast enough. Gratitude reminds us to appreciate the journey rather than fix it solely on the destination. By valuing the present moment, however imperfect, it becomes easier to remain calm in the face of delays or obstacles. This patience allows us to endure difficulties without giving in to despair. Gratitude and patience together create a quiet strength that sustains us even when the future feels uncertain. What makes gratitude particularly powerful is that it is accessible to everyone. It requires no special tools, no financial resources, and no extraordinary circumstances. It simply requires the willingness to pause and notice. And with consistent practice, gratitude becomes second nature. Instead of waiting for good things to happen before feeling thankful, gratitude trains us to see that good things are already happening all around us. This awareness builds resilience because it ensures that even in the hardest moments, we can find something steady to hold on to. In essence, gratitude is not about ignoring hardship or pretending that everything is perfect. It is about choosing to focus on what remains good, valuable, and meaningful even in the midst of difficulty. That choice shapes the way we experience challenges. It strengthens our emotional core, reminding us that while we cannot always control what happens, we can control how we see it. And in choosing gratitude, we choose resilience. Self-discipline is one of the most underestimated but powerful habits for building emotional strength and resilience. Many people associate discipline only with external achievements, such as sticking to a workout routine, meeting deadlines, or avoiding distractions. While those things are true, the deeper purpose of self-discipline lies in the way it shapes our character and our emotional response to life. When you build the habit of self-discipline, you are training yourself to endure discomfort, to resist the pull of instant gratification, and to stay committed to a greater goal even when the path feels difficult. And this very act of choosing consistency over convenience strengthens your emotional resilience because you learn that you are capable of pushing through challenges rather than being defeated by them. Life will always bring moments where motivation runs low, where you feel tired, frustrated, or unmotivated to keep going. Discipline is what carries you through those moments. Emotional resilience depends on the ability to continue moving forward even when emotions tempt you to stop. For example, imagine someone who commits to daily exercise. On the days they feel motivated, the habit feels easy. But on the days they are tired or stressed, showing up becomes a test of discipline. Each time they choose to follow through, despite resistance, they are building more than physical strength. They are training their mind to endure discomfort. That ability to persist when it is inconvenient translates into emotional resilience in every area of life. Self-discipline also reduces chaos in our lives, and that stability strengthens emotional well-being. When you create routines, such as waking up at a consistent time, managing your responsibilities with order, and limiting negative habits, you create a sense of control in a world that is often unpredictable. Challenges and crises will still come, but discipline ensures that you have a strong foundation to stand on. Without discipline, small disruptions can quickly spiral into overwhelming stress because there is no structure to hold you steady. With discipline, however, even when life shakes you, you have routines and habits that ground you and keep you moving forward. Another important aspect of self-discipline is the way it shapes our relationship with our emotions. Often, when we lack discipline, we act impulsively, responding to anger with outbursts, handling stress with avoidance, or numbing pain with unhealthy coping mechanisms. Discipline teaches us to pause, to regulate our responses, and to act from intention rather than impulse. For example, instead of lashing out during an argument, discipline allows you to take a breath and respond calmly. This is not about suppressing emotions, but about directing them in a constructive way. Emotional strength grows when you are no longer at the mercy of every passing feeling, but instead, you have trained yourself to remain steady and intentional in your actions. Discipline also strengthens resilience by connecting us to a sense of long-term purpose. When you set goals and commit to them with discipline, you begin to see that the sacrifices you make today serve the person you want to become tomorrow. That mindset helps you endure setbacks because you understand that growth takes time. For instance, someone pursuing a career dream might face rejections or failures along the way, but discipline helps them continue refining their skills, applying again, and staying focused despite the disappointments. This connection to a greater purpose fuels resilience because when you know your efforts are meaningful, you can endure temporary struggles without giving up. The act of practicing discipline itself becomes a source of confidence. Each time you keep a promise to yourself, whether it is sticking to a study schedule, managing your finances wisely, or resisting unhealthy temptations, you strengthen your belief that you are capable. That inner confidence is critical for resilience because in difficult moments, what carries you forward is the belief that you can handle what comes your way. Without discipline, self-doubt grows because promises to yourself are broken. With discipline, trust in yourself deepens, and that trust becomes a source of emotional strength during hard times. Furthermore, discipline teaches patience, which is another pillar of resilience. Many people expect quick results and lose heart when progress is slow, but discipline is about showing up every day regardless of immediate outcomes. That repeated effort teaches you that transformation takes time. You begin to see that setbacks are not failures, but part of the process. This patience allows you to endure difficulties without losing sight of your goals, and it gives you the stamina to continue moving forward when others might give up. Ultimately, self-discipline is a daily training of the mind and body to do what is necessary rather than what is easy. It is the act of aligning your actions with your values, even when it is uncomfortable. And through this practice, you develop a resilience that no external challenge can easily shake. Life will always present obstacles, but with discipline, you carry within you the proof that you can face difficulty, endure discomfort, and emerge stronger. Connection is one of the most powerful yet sometimes underestimated sources of emotional strength and resilience. Human beings are not designed to walk through life alone. From the moment we are born, we rely on the presence and support of others to survive and to grow. Yet as adults, especially in difficult times, many of us are tempted to withdraw, to carry our burdens in silence, and to believe that asking for help is a sign of weakness. In truth, it is the opposite. Recognizing the need for connection and embracing it is a sign of emotional intelligence and strength. It shows the courage to admit that while you may be capable, you are also human. And resilience is not built in isolation, but in the presence of others. When life presents challenges, whether it is personal loss, failure, or disappointment, connection acts as a safety net. Friends, mentors, colleagues, or family members provide more than just companionship. They provide perspective, encouragement, and strength when our own reserves run low. Think about a time when you faced something difficult, and simply having someone listen made the burden feel lighter. The situation did not change, but the emotional weight shifted because you were reminded that you are not alone. That reminder is powerful in cultivating resilience, because knowing that others are standing with you helps you find the courage to keep moving forward. Connection also gives us the opportunity to learn from the experiences of others. Resilient people often surround themselves with those who have walked through their own storms and emerged stronger. By listening to their stories, we gain both hope and practical wisdom. A mentor who shares how they recovered from failure, a friend who overcame loss, or even a colleague who managed to thrive after setbacks can show us that challenges, while painful, are survivable. Their journey becomes a mirror, reminding us that if they could endure and rise again, so can we. This transfer of strength through shared experience is one of the most important aspects of connection. On the other side, connection also means showing up for others in their time of need. When we support someone else, we not only lift them, but also reinforce our own resilience. Giving support creates a sense of purpose, reminding us that we are capable of making a difference. Helping others through difficulty teaches us compassion, patience, and perspective, qualities that strengthen us for our own challenges. In fact, some of the most emotionally strong people are those who have made a habit of being a source of stability for others. The act of being dependable in someone else's storm reinforces your own emotional foundation. Another layer of connection lies in vulnerability. Many people avoid sharing their struggles because they fear being judged or misunderstood. Yet vulnerability is where true strength begins. When you allow yourself to be open and honest about what you are going through, you create space for authentic relationships. Pretending to have everything under control isolates us, while vulnerability builds trust and closeness. And trust is essential for resilience because it provides the assurance that when you stumble, there are hands ready to lift you up. Vulnerability does not mean oversharing or seeking pity. It means acknowledging that you do not have to carry every burden alone. Connection also provides accountability, which is crucial for growth. Sometimes resilience is not just about enduring difficulty, but about making better choices in the face of temptation or discouragement. Having people who hold you accountable, reminding you of your values, encouraging you to stay disciplined, or challenging you when you stray, keeps you aligned with the path that builds long-term strength. Left alone, it is easier to give in to negative habits or to quit when things get tough. But with accountability, you are reminded of the bigger picture, and that reminder keeps you resilient. Furthermore, connection expands our sense of meaning. Relationships remind us that life is about more than just our own struggles. When we invest in others, we find reasons to keep going even when we feel like giving up. For example, a parent may endure hardship because of the love they have for their children, or a leader may persist through challenges because of the team that relies on them. These connections provide fuel for resilience by anchoring us to something larger than ourselves. They give us the motivation to endure difficulties not only for our own sake, but for the sake of those we care about. In times of crisis, people often discover that their greatest source of strength lies not in their own ability, but in the network of relationships they have built. Emotional strength is not about never needing others, but about knowing when to reach out and allowing those bonds to carry you when your own strength is tested. When you nurture connection daily, through kindness, empathy, gratitude, and presence, you build a support system that will hold you in times of struggle. That support system does not make life easier, but it makes you stronger, and that strength is the essence of resilience. Perspective is one of the most powerful tools we have in developing emotional strength and resilience. Life has a way of magnifying problems, making them seem larger than they are when we are standing in the middle of them. A small setback can feel like a disaster, a single rejection can feel like the end of opportunity, and a moment of pain can feel endless. But perspective reminds us that what feels permanent is often temporary, and what seems overwhelming often becomes manageable when viewed from a different angle. Perspective does not deny the reality of challenges, but it reshapes how we interpret them. And that shift in interpretation is what allows us to remain strong in the face of adversity. When you step back and look at a problem from a broader lens, you begin to see it in proportion to the rest of your life. A mistake that feels devastating in the present often becomes a learning experience in hindsight. A disappointment that seems unbearable today may later reveal itself as a redirection towards something better. Perspective allows us to frame challenges not as final verdicts on our worth or potential, but as temporary experiences in the longer journey of growth. This shift in thinking builds resilience because it prevents us from being consumed by the weight of a single moment. Instead, we recognize that one chapter does not define the whole book. One way perspective strengthens resilience is by helping us ask questions that reframe the situation. When faced with difficulty, instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" we can ask, "What can I learn from this?" Or "How will this matter a year from now?" These questions shrink the size of the problem and redirect our attention toward growth. For example, losing a job can feel devastating, but through the lens of perspective, it might become an opportunity to pursue a path that is more aligned with our values and passions. Resilient people are not those who avoid challenges, but those who train themselves to see challenges as temporary, meaningful, and surmountable. Perspective also helps us regulate emotions in the heat of the moment. When we are caught in anger, fear, or sadness, it is easy to lose control. But if we remind ourselves that emotions are temporary states rather than permanent truths, we gain the ability to respond calmly rather than react impulsively. Perspective creates space between the feeling and the response. Instead of saying, "This is unbearable," perspective allows us to say, "This feels difficult right now, but it will pass." That simple shift in language is powerful. It turns despair into patience, and patience is what sustains resilience. Another way perspective contributes to emotional strength is by cultivating gratitude for the bigger picture. When we step back, we realize that even in the midst of hardship, not everything is lost. We may still have health, relationships, or opportunities to grow. Perspective balances the scales, reminding us that life is not defined by a single difficulty, but by the collection of experiences, both good and bad, that shape us. In this way, perspective guards us against hopelessness because it reveals that even in pain, there are still reasons to endure and to hope. Perspective also helps us detach from the illusion of control. Much of our stress comes from trying to control outcomes that are beyond our influence. When we broaden our view, we see that there will always be factors outside our control. Circumstances, timing, other people's choices, but what remains firmly in our power is how we respond. Resilience grows when we stop wasting energy on what we cannot change and instead focus on what we can. This shift prevents us from being paralyzed by helplessness and instead strengthens us to act wisely within our sphere of influence. Furthermore, perspective teaches humility. It reminds us that everyone faces challenges and ours are not unique in the human experience. This realization not only makes our own burdens feel lighter, but also connects us more deeply to others. When we see that struggle is universal, we are less likely to feel isolated and more likely to approach both ourselves and others with compassion. This humility is part of resilience because it encourages us to accept help, to offer support, and to remember that challenges, while painful, are part of being human. Time itself is one of the greatest teachers of perspective. Many situations that once felt impossible eventually fade into memory. Looking back, we realize that we survived challenges we thought we couldn't. That realization strengthens our belief in our own resilience. By remembering past struggles and how we overcame them, we gain perspective on current difficulties. We remind ourselves, if I endured then, I can endure now. In this way, perspective becomes not only a tool for the present, but a bridge connecting us to the strength of our past. Ultimately, perspective allows us to carry hope into difficult times. It does not erase struggle, but it ensures that struggle does not consume us. It shows us that storms pass, pain softens, and setbacks often carry seeds of transformation. When we cultivate perspective daily, by stepping back, asking better questions, and remembering the bigger picture, we train our minds to bend without breaking. And that ability to bend without losing ourselves in the weight of the moment is the very essence of resilience. Emotional strength and resilience are not traits we stumble upon by chance. They are cultivated through the daily choices we make and the habits we practice. Reflection sharpens our awareness and teaches us to learn from every experience. Gratitude shifts our focus from what is missing to what still remains, giving us the light to endure dark seasons. Discipline molds our character and proves to us that we can persist even when comfort tempts us to stop. Connection reminds us that strength is multiplied when shared, and that asking for support is not weakness but wisdom. Perspective lifts our gaze beyond the present storm and helps us see that pain is temporary but growth is lasting. Together, these habits do more than carry us through adversity. They transform us within it. They help us bend without breaking, fall yet rise, struggle yet grow. And when practiced consistently, they create not just resilience for ourselves, but an example of strength for those around us. The true measure of resilience is not in avoiding hardship, but in how we rise through it. And with these habits, rising becomes not just possible, but inevitable.